Let's see how to install Lubuntu using manual partitioning. For the installation mode, I'm going to go with minimal installation just to save a bit of time, but it doesn't really matter. The steps that we're going to see apply for all three installation modes. I'll also check this checkbox and let's continue. And as you can see, I currently have on this machine another operating system, specifically another Linux distro. We're going to see how to hop from the currently installed distro to Lubuntu, and we're also going to see how to install it from scratch. So here I'm going to choose manual partitioning and let's click on next. So we can see that I currently have 4 partitions on this disk. Let's quickly go over them. So the first one, we can see that the file system is FAT32. Its size is about 1 GB, and this is a strong indication that this is the ESP or EFI system partition. This is basically the table of content for the disk, and it is required for booting. We then have a swap partition, and swap is an area of the disk that the computer can use if it's running out of RAM. Now, Ubuntu pretty much moved away from swap partitions, and it's now primarily using swap files. But other distros still use swap partitions, and generally speaking, having a swap partition won't cause any damage. So if you are distro hopping and you happen to have a swap partition, just leave it there. We then have 2 ext4 partitions, and I know that the way I built it is that this one is the root partition and the other one is the home partition. It is a little bit bigger. Now, if we want to hop from the currently installed operating system to Lubuntu, here is what we're going to do. We're going to start by choosing the ESP or EFI system partition, then we're going to click on Edit. And as you can see, we can keep the content or format the content. But because we are distro hopping, there is no point in reinstalling the EFI system partition. So I'm going to keep it. We can also see that it has the boot flag enabled, and this flag is necessary for the EFI system partition. One thing that we have to do here is choose the correct mount point, and for the EFI system partition, it has to be this one, boot EFI. Then we can click on OK. We don't need to do anything with the swap partition, we just leave it the way it is. Then we can move on to this one. This is the root partition. This is where the operating system itself is actually installed. So we're going to click on Edit, and this is the only partition that we're actually going to format. So here I'm going to choose Format, and the reason is that I want to replace the currently installed operating system. The file system is not going to change. It was ext4 and it is going to stay ext4, and the mount point is going to be /, which is also known as root. Then we can click on OK. As for the last partition, this is the home partition or the user partition. This is where all of the user files are stored. Documents, music, videos, and everything else, and the idea is that we want to keep this. We want to keep having our files even after the installation of Lubuntu. So what we're going to do is click on Edit, and of course we're going to keep this partition. We are not going to format it. The mount point is going to be /home, and we can click on OK. So if you are distro hopping, the only partition that you are going to override or format is this one, the root partition, and nothing else. Then you can click on Next, provide your details, and keep on with the installation. But what if you are not distro hopping and you want to install Ubuntu from scratch? Well, let's go back, and if this is the case, or if you want to get rid of what you currently have on your disk, you can create a new partition table, and this will get rid of all of the partitions that currently exist on the disk. So let's do that. Let's create a new partition table, and we are warned that creating a new partition table will delete all existing data on the disk. This is exactly what I want to do, and here we need to choose if we want the partition table to be MBR or GPT. Generally speaking, the better choice for almost all modern hardware is going to be GPT, and this is especially the case if your hardware is using UEFI rather than the legacy BIOS. So unless your computer is extremely old, this is probably what you want to choose, GPT. So let's click on OK. And we can see that we now only have free space on the disk and all of the partitions are gone. And now we need to create these partitions ourselves. So first I'm going to click on free space. Then we're going to create the first partition. So let's click here, create. And the first partition is going to be our ESP or EFI system partition. Its size needs to be at least 500 megabytes, but to be on the safe side, I'm going to allocate to it about 1000 megabytes. The file system for this partition needs to be FAT32. The mount point for this partition needs to be this one, boot EFI, and we also have to turn on the boot flag. Then we can click on OK. We can then move on to creating the additional partitions that we need. So let's choose the free space and create a new partition. Now, as I said, Ubuntu in general, and specifically Lubuntu, pretty much moved away from the swap partitions. So because we are going to install Lubuntu, I am not going to create a swap partition. You can do that. It won't cause any harm, but chances are that it won't really help either. So in modern Ubuntu system, there is little point in creating a swap partition, and I'm not going to create one. What we are going to create is the actual partition on which Lubuntu will reside. Now, we have two options here. We can only create one big partition for both the system, the operating system, and the user's files. If this is what you're going to do, then this partition needs to use all of the remaining disk space. Its file system is going to be ext4, and the mount point is going to be / for root. And that's it. And having only one big partition works great. It's more straightforward and simplifies things. But having two separate partitions, a root partition and then a home partition, it makes things much easier if you want to reinstall your operating system or you want to distro hop without losing your files. So there is no correct answer here, but since we already know how to build our partition table if we only want one big partition, I will use two separate partitions. So let's remove this partition. Let me choose this one and delete it. And now we're going to create our two different partitions. So let's choose the free space again and start by creating the root partition. So let's create, and the size for the root partition needs to be anywhere from 15 to 100 megabytes. I know that this is a big range, but it pretty much depends on the disk space you have. It will work with 15 gigabytes, but it will be very limited. If you plan to use a lot of development tools, things like Docker images and stuff of that nature, then you definitely want your root partition to be bigger. Maybe 25 gigabytes, 30 gigabytes, 50 gigabytes. And if you have a really big disk, give it 100 gigabytes. For this demonstration, I'm going to allocate to it about 25 gigabytes because my disk is not that big. But again, if I had a bigger disk, chances are that I would allocate even more. As for its mount point, I'm going to choose /. This is what we need to choose for the root partition. Then we can click on OK. The rest of the disk space is going to be allocated to the home partition. So let's choose the free space, then create. And here I'm going to allocate the rest of the disk space. The file system is going to be ext4. You can also encrypt the content of this partition. And this way, in case your computer is stolen or anything like that, it's going to be much harder to extract information from it, unless you know the password, of course. As for the mount point, we need to choose /home. Then we can click on OK. All of the disk space was allocated to our partitions. Then we can click on Next. We then need to fill in our details. And I also check this checkbox to log in automatically without asking for the password. Then we can click on Next. Here we can see how the partitions on our disk used to look like and how they are going to look like now after the installation. Here we can see a summary of all of the changes that will be made to the partition table on this disk. Then we can click on Install. We need to approve the changes by clicking on Install Now, and Lubuntu is now being installed on the computer.